Hello my dear ones, from Qatar Airways First Class on the Airbus A380, and it's extra special because everybody normally talks just about the QSuite, the so-called best business class in the world on Qatar Airways, but of course first class is a level up, and now I'm really curious how much different and how much better or not much better it is compared to QSuite.
I'm Chris, and Travelsing is all about flying and traveling with lots of tips and brutally fair airline reports. And today we're going on seat 1A on the Airbus A380 from Doha to Paris. How's the lounge in Doha? What delicacies are there on board? How's the bed? What do the brand new pajamas for the World Soccer Cup look like, which you can win here today? How much fun is the onboard bar? How much did it cost in the end? And is this first class really better than the rest?
So come with me, Qatar Airways First Class on the Airbus A380 from Doha to Paris.
Before the flight, I stayed a few hours at the rather incredible Al Safwa First Lounge, and there's gonna be a separate report about it. Just this much, the lounge looks almost like a museum or temple with endlessly high ceilings, stone walls, works of art and lots of water. There's also real bedrooms, a spa and a private jacuzzi. After an early espresso in the lounge restaurant, we're heading past the famous bear with the lamp to one of the airline's currently 8 active Airbus A380s, and only here does Qatar Airways offer first class. Boarding in Doha is on 2 floors, and as usual, I'm the last one to board. That means I'm having the jetway to the fully booked huge Airbus A380 all to myself.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
1A.
Well, I was again the last passenger not to onboard but to board the plane, and once I sat, I got greeted with a welcome drink that's orange juice or water or lemon mint juice or champagne. Well, I opted for the lemon mint juice. That's a signature drink of Qatar Airways in the early morning, especially better than champagne. And then some cheese and olives, and they will have nuts a little later after takeoff, as far as I remember. And then we got a refreshing towel and Amenity kit. Amenity kit is branded by Diptique. That's a very nice cosmetic label from Paris. And then we got the pajamas. You have normally a size L or M. And then we got some Arabic coffee. That's more or less cardamom juice. Here on Qatar Airways, it's very cardamom-like, not so much coffee-like anymore, but very good. And of course we also got some dates with the coffee. So that's how the flight actually starts before we actually start taxiing. Like most airlines after the COVID crisis, Qatar Airways is really back in business again, and this very big aircraft is fully booked in economy class, business class and first class. Well, when you look at the cabin itself, it's not as private as QSuite, of course, because QSuite has a real door. Once you close the door, you're really very private on your seat. Not so much here because you don't have a door in this first class cabin. It's pretty open everything and not private, but at least you have this partition wall over here that you can put up and down at the push of a button. Of course, also compared to other first classes, this cabin is not private at all. Emirates has suites that have doors that close, and also Singapore Airlines first class suites are real like small rooms, more or less. So this here is not private at all, but it also has to do with the Airbus A380. There's also the business class over here that's not very private. They still have the super diamond seats like on this plane, also on the older Airbus A350s and also Dreamliners. And They're just from another generation of business class seats, no privacy at all. But of course, compared to that, this here is of course again a clear step up, so just take it as you like.
Then let's take a closer look at the seat before we start. There's a large TV screen in the front. Next to it we have a lamp that can be operated from the seat. Below that is the end for the bed once you lie down later, but you could also sit there if you wish to have tea for two, for example. Then you can fold out the table here for eating. Otherwise there's a shelf for small drinks or snacks over here. Then there's a compartment for magazines, and in the armrest is the remote control for the monitor, and behind it a compartment with a bottle of water. In the other armrest there's a control for the seat and the lighting, and behind it there's a compartment with the headphones, and there's also a USB port. And then here are the buttons to move the privacy screen up and down. If you like to look out of the window like me, you should always choose a seat on the left side when departing from Doha, because planes basically always take off northbound, and then you can see quite a bit of Qatar and the Arabian Gulf coast. Now the service is starting, and of course they do everything for you. I just wanted to pull out the table myself for demonstrative reasons. By the way, the armchair is really practical. You only have to press the button once for a second and the armchair moves by itself to the end position, whether it's the bed position or here to the dining table. Table and armchair are flexible, so you can get up at any time, even when the table is fully set.
Qatar Airways offers a Dine-on-Demand system, and that I told you already in many other reviews about business class and first class, and that means you can eat anything from the menu at any time you wish. You can also just start with breakfast and later have the main course, or you just start with main course and have breakfast in the end of the flight, whatever you like. And then also the service is just so good, you know. I mean, I couldn't make up my mind what I would like to eat. Big problem, I know. But they just took it very friendly and waited very patiently until I'm done thinking and rethinking and redeciding. And they even write down how many minutes after the first course you would like to have the next course. So that's quite impressive. And in this way, Qatar Airways is just second to none. Thank you very much. Thank you. The state of Qatar is the host for the World Championship of Soccer in 2022, if you like it or not. However, when it comes to Qatar Airways, they for sure are in the Premier League when it comes to the culinary delights, because no matter economy, business, first class, they have just a very good, very high level when it comes to food and beverages. Now, first class, of course, is still a step up from business class, and here they have a breakfast on this flight, because we started just before 8 o'clock. On this flight, I just didn't take much from breakfast because I wanted to keep myself open for all the options for lunch. And at lunch, they have, of course, bread and then a soup of the day. I didn't take the soup, but I start with the appetizers. They have 4 kinds of appetizers to choose from, 4 kinds of mains and 4 kinds of dessert, and also a cheese platter, and also, of course, light snacks. Then when it comes to beverages, the list is also pretty good, and we're starting here with Krug champagne. So here you don't get Dom Perignon, and sometimes you get Dom Perignon in the shop for $160, $170 if you're lucky. But Krug you don't get, that's more expensive, and very rarely on promotion. And it's so beautiful, and it's such an intense yellow color. Pretty special, but also the rest of the wine is really nice, but more about that later. So the first appetizer is caviar with smoked salmon, and with it we have this beautifully cut lemon. You see it's cut in a square, very nice. Never seen that. And the amount of caviar here is pretty impressive. It's not in a little jar, but they really spooned it onto the plate, and it's a really good amount.
By the way, my Qatar First Class flight before this one was a night flight, and there, along with caviar, we had barley salmon, which is such a delicacy that, for example, in Swiss First Class, it's offered instead of caviar.
I'm so happy and so proud of this really wonderful community of wonderful, friendly, positive people, and I'm really doing my best to give you the best possible reports, really unbiased, really fair, but also comprehensive, and sometimes also, I hope, entertaining. So thank you so much, and a big cheers to you. When it comes to exclusive appetizers here, it's not done with caviar, but they also have as a second appetizer glazed lobster claw and king crab claw. Maybe you've seen king crabs, how they look like actually when they're alive. They're pretty impressive, especially if you're a small fish. But in this case, it's cooked already. Only the leg is left, and I'm really looking forward to it now. For the flight from Doha to Paris, you could choose the main dish already a couple of days ahead of the flight, and I opted for halibut, oven-baked halibut, again with the lobster claw and some nice lemon saffron risotto rice. And with it, I take some chablis. Well, there's always something. No, kidding. It's really very good. But it's also a little sad that I cannot finish up all these glasses here. I mean, they're really very, very good wines that are really not cheap at all at the shop. But I'm supposed to speak in this report in full sentences till the end of the report, and I would not be able to do that if I just finished all the glasses, but it really hurts my heart. And I just ordered 2 red wines that are really special on this flight. That's Bordeaux called Comtesse de la Lande, a Pauillac Bordeaux from 2009, and Brunello, that's a Brunello di Montalcino from 2011, and the vineyard is Biondi Santi. I just had to smile a little bit when I looked at the description for the Bordeaux, because I mean you normally get always those aromas of like oak wood and tobacco and so on, but here they say it has wonderful aromas of maca, and now it comes lead pencil. So this wine tastes of lead pencil, but I promise you I didn't smell it, I didn't taste it, it just tastes wonderful. I don't think it's the best advertisement to say this tastes like lead pencil. And we've arrived at the cheese. And this looks actually quite nice, but it looks actually like it looks in business class here in Qatar Airways, but that's already very good. Maybe you've seen my Singapore Airlines First Class suites report. If not, I really recommend to watch it. It's kind of fun. It's not only pretty amazing as a cabin, because I mean, you can forget about this here. If you see the first class suites of Singapore Airlines, they're really amazing. You have a real proper small room just to yourself, and I was extra lucky that there was nobody behind me, so I got a double bed, I got a double suite with doors closing and everything, so I had a double room just to myself. Really, really impressive. Have a look at that. But when it comes to cheese, and that's why I say it, their cheese was horrible. It was discounter quality, really cheap, and that was very impressive in a bad way, because you have this amazing suite and then you have crab as cheese. So have a look at that report. It's quite fun to watch. After all the praises for food and beverage, I just need to add that internet connections are not very good here. I mean, as a first class passenger, you do get free Wi-Fi access. All the others have to pay for it. However, the internet is not very good. It's either not there at all or very slow. I mean, once you travel between Southeast Asia, for example, and Arabia, you cross over the Indian subcontinent, and there you won't have internet anyway, because they don't allow it in India. But between the Arab Peninsula and Europe, it's all allowed. So this means there's just no good internet here on board this plane, and that kind of sucks.
Both Emirates and Qatar Airways have an onboard bar on the upper deck of the Airbus A380, but even with real red roses and sofas, for some reason I never experienced the atmosphere in the Qatar bar as bar-like and fun as on Emirates, even though it's really nice here. All business class wines and spirits are available here, and all cocktails and mocktails are freshly mixed too. There's no ready-made mixtures, and you can taste that. And if you want to eat even more, there's a few more chilled snacks in a glass. But now let's run back to our seat for another highlight, the Amenity Kit. The Qatar Airways First Class Amenity Kit is branded by Diptique since about half a year ago, and there's versions for women and men, but with the same beautiful inner lining and the same content, and that's sleeping mask and socks, and products from Diptique, namely eau de toilette for men or women, body lotion, face cream and lip balm. Could be a bit more luxurious compared to the competition, but it's overall a nice and useful kit.
Well, I only had like 5,899 calories too much today, so I'm gonna have some dessert, and actually even two, because it doesn't matter anymore anyway. And this is a deconstructed black forest cake, very nice. And with it I'm having this. It's spectacular. It's a dessert wine from South Africa. The smell is just breathtaking, but in a good way, of course. Just outstanding. Well, I think we've reached the 10,000 calories already, so reason enough to just continue with another dessert, and that's a poached pear filled with mascarpone cheese and everything on a pecan financier with pecan nuts, and with it I'm gonna have a 2006 vintage Bollinger Rosé champagne, because it doesn't matter anymore anyway. And here we are at the lavatories in first class. There's two lavatories in the very top, in the very front of the plane on the upper deck. Two lavatories for 8 seats, so that's not bad. However, you don't get the showers on board as you would have on Emirates, and you don't have a vanity corner like you would have on Singapore Airlines, but still it's nice large lavatory. Of course, it's just a little more simple than on Emirates or Singapore Airlines. However, here on the Airbus A380, this space is there because you would not be able to use this space for seats. It's too small for that, but it's just perfect for a nice, large, beautiful bathroom like here. On Qatar Airways you always get pajamas in business and first class, at least on medium and long haul flights, and they're the same pajamas in both classes. And well, I'm just gonna try one on now because we still have some time until Paris, and at the moment they also have a special edition in preparation for the FIFA World Championships of Soccer. So they have a special edition of pajamas for that.
And that brings us finally to the bed, and as expected it's wide and comfy. As I mentioned before, what's practical is that you only have to press the button once and the chair does the rest itself, instead of standing around and button pressing there for a minute. On this day flight I only lay down briefly without a mattress, but my first class flight before this one was a night flight and my bed was made by the staff while I was changing, and this is what it looked like.
The bed is really comfortable, it's very wide, and there's also unlimited leg room, as you can see, so that's really nice. And you also have a mattress. I mean, actually it's a seat cover, however it's not very thick, so that means you can really feel the seat in the end, but it's not too bad. Then you have two pillows, and when you lie down you're really way back on the seats, so you really don't see the rest of the cabin too much, and it gives you kind of some privacy, so that's quite okay. So the bed itself is quite nice.
The monitor screen is relatively far away, but the remote control is responsive and easy to understand, and you can also watch the entertainment on the remote control if you like, and at the same time run the flight show on the screen, for example. The headphones are of course noise cancelling, and I used them too. In any case, time flies pretty quickly in all classes because the entertainment on offer is enormous.
Just to be complete, of course, the entertainment system of Qatar Airways is very, very big. There's a huge selection of movies, a huge selection of TV series, and of course movies not just from Hollywood, but also, of course, also Bollywood, but also the rest of the world. All the other parts of the world are really represented, so it's really very interesting also to watch, especially on a long flight. There's also lots of TV series, lots of documentaries, and also meditation programs, and there's also a very big audio library. I mean, I already talked about the entertainment system in my business class reports. Have a look at that. But be assured that you're gonna be entertained no matter how long your flight is.
Now the necessary evil, the costs. At a whopping $6,000 cash one way, it's quite expensive fun. With miles, however, it's relatively affordable. I booked the flight pretty early with 64,500 miles plus a bit over $100 in fees, which is really cheap. And the miles can be collected quite well on flight, but you can also transfer points from your Amex card, and they had great welcome bonuses throughout the crisis that were sufficient for an experience like this.
So we're just breaking through the clouds, approaching into Paris. What can we say about first class on Qatar Airways on this wonderful Airbus A380? Well, first of all, it's of course first class. That means, of course, it's a step up from business class and economy class. And of course, business class and economy class have already quite good catering. And here we have a step up. That means we have better quality of food. I mean, more exclusive quality of food. You have also caviar, for example, that is really on a good level and also quite amazing quantities. And then you have also a drink list and a wine list that's pretty good, and it's just beyond just the regular Dom Pérignon champagne or something like that. You have really good wines that are really worth trying. And when it comes to service, of course, service is also one of the big advantages of Qatar Airways, of a flight on Qatar Airways, because service is really very good normally here. But that's also the case in business class. So when you go in business class, you will have very good service already, unless it's really super full, then they might be a little busy. However, here in first class you have only 8 seats and you have dedicated staff only for first class. That means they're really dedicated with everything you ask for. They're really very attentive, very friendly, and the only thing is you don't have privacy. You don't have doors. The first class has no doors. This is still an old kind of first class, and privacy is not really part of it. You can look out of the window, otherwise you see the others. Other than that, it's of course a nice flight. It's worth going. However, if you have the chance to go on QSuite in a business class, then I might even choose QSuite, because of course it's so much cheaper and you get privacy. You can close the doors, and you have also decent food, very good food actually for business class, and very good service there too. Anyway, first class here is a nice thing. You won't go wrong with going in first class in Qatar Airways. So my dear ones, we've landed in Paris. I hope you really enjoyed this flight report about Qatar Airways First Class on the Airbus A380, and if yes, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel right away. There's lots of more airline reports waiting for you on low cost, economy class, business class, and also first class, and of course destination reports from all over the world, from all continents. So stay tuned, subscribe, and see you very soon again here on Travel, Sing, Fly.